The SEC versus Ripple lawsuit has not yet concluded, but I will say, today on April 1 cent, that I say bar humbug to April Fool's Day chicanery all up in this bitch ain't got no time for cheer and jubilant behavior on the Coin Lady channel. The good news is that, as far as I'm aware, there hasn't been a single piece of crypto media coverage over the past year claiming, falsely, that the SEC versus Ripple case has been resolved, either through a settlement or a decision regarding summary judgment. They did that last year. There were news reports on the SEC case, and now it appears to be closed. And the verdict favored the Ripple, so XRP is safe to invest in. The XRP community, I can tell you now, did not appreciate that. For the simple reason that we don't take BS laughs are wasted on us. But no one was fooled by that. As far as I'm aware, that deity actually existed. For the simple reason that real money is at stake and people care. There will be no April Fool's Day tricks here, but I do want to share some information with you. But look at this news from XRP, the most basic crypto asset and the only one besides Bitcoin capable of moving the market. It's interesting to note that almost no other cryptocurrency has ever been market leader. While I won't claim that everything played out the same way here as it has elsewhere, I can provide some clarification. However, XRP is an extremely potent currency. The possibility of a future in which XRP is no longer the dominant cryptocurrency is very real. Thus, it's possible to exist in a world where Bitcoin itself replaces all other cryptocurrencies. However, in the near term, I just want to put out a tiny bit of a warning because it comes from the on-chain analytics firm Sentiment. I think their work is fantastic because they focus solely on off-chain analytics their data without resorting to any sort of technical analysis, and they then endeavor to draw fair and balanced conclusions based on those numbers. And there is worry that we might see a little bit of a pullback in the short term, just a short term, but that is just part of what it is to be in crypto anyway, plenty to talk about. I'm not a financial expert and am not giving any sort of financial advice, so let me make that perfectly clear before I go any further. Also, you shouldn't make any financial decisions based on the content of my YouTube videos. I'm just a hobbyist who happens to be interested in cryptocurrencies. However, only in the recreational sense. XRP is 51 cents at most crypto news sites as I record this video. Take note that the trend in pricing today is down. Here's a headline from the Crypto Basics, which reports that XRP fell 2.6% at the time this article was written. The 24-hour high was just below 54 cents, and the 24-hour low was just below 50 cents. In addition, I found it rather intriguing that, depending on your location, time zone, and all that, April 1 is roughly at that moment. Indeed, it appeared at that time that XRP began to decline. Because there wasn't a settlement by the end of March 31, when some people were apparently counting on it, I couldn't help but wonder if there are some people who just get rid of their XRP positions. That may or may not be the case, though. Even though time marches on, there is still no resolution to the SEC versus Ripple case, and I think it's ridiculous if anyone acted in such a way. It's still on the horizon, and we could wake up to it any morning. So, it's unclear to me if that was the case there. I do believe that a sizable portion of the positive price action we've seen, the upside, is due to people placing their bets against the SEC, which I think makes perfect sense. Despite the fact that there is no way to know for sure, I believe that the majority of people are not anticipating that the most likely thing to occur here is a British ruling that causes the price to plummet, because that would be bad for XRP. The market capitalization of all digital assets is still more than $1.20 trillion, and Bitcoin's share of that market is 45.55%. Most things are about the same as they have been for the past few days. If you're using an ingredient multiplier of 0.63%, for example, you'll notice that the multiplier has remained relatively constant for the past few days. In the absence of Bitcoin's influence, XRP is seen as the only crypto asset that can steer the market. My thoughts were pausing. Although XRP is my favorite cryptocurrency and accounts for the majority of my personal cryptocurrency holdings, I must respectfully disagree. One major point I wanted to make was that it is possible for an alternative cryptocurrency to disappear from circulation. As far as I can recall, this has happened before, and there is historical precedent for it. XRP and ETH are the only coins I can think of off the top of my head that have caused this, but I'm sure there are others. And perhaps you can think of some situations where you would categorically rule out the possibility of this happening right off the bat. In fact, that's perfectly acceptable. I won't lie and say that I remember everything. What's interesting, though, is that when that does occur, especially if it's one of the larger cap coins, say in the top 10 Bitcoin will respond if there's a big move. This isn't always the case, of course, but there have been times when it has been. It's fascinating any time something like that occurs. There have been many isolated cases of XRP functioning independently. Actually, that's the norm. It's exciting to realize that XRP is a major player in the cryptocurrency market. There are over 20,000 different cryptocurrencies, but XRP has consistently ranked in the top 10 due to its scarcity. One of the most famous cryptos in the universe and on Earth. It's unusual for an altcoin to have such a strong pull. And that's just in terms of what will always have the largest market cap and the largest market share. I'm all for Bitcoin, and I'm even long it. But is it inevitable that XRP or some other coin will eventually overtake Bitcoin as the most valuable cryptocurrency? This is not the most far-fetched idea. I can't say for sure if it's going to occur. On the other hand, I find this entirely plausible. Because, ultimately, in a mature market, whatever coin is solving the biggest problem has a greater probability of being number one market because the money is going to follow that ultimately. Now, there are caveats now, but that's how I look at it. What if, for example, there are multiple coins that each achieve a certain percentage of the market? And then they all figure it out and, well, good for them. As a result, prices are higher than they would be otherwise. Sure. However, if the funds are distributed among several coins instead of just Bitcoin, which enjoys the highest value due to its early adoption and subsequent concentration of investor capital, Bitcoin would be more difficult to displace. There are a lot of factors to think about, but in a mature asset class, no, I wouldn't expect that the money flows to the cryptos that solve the greatest problem. This has been a question on my mind for well over a decade. So, given that at the most fundamental level, what does this mean for Bitcoin? Where and how should one put their Bitcoins? You won't be making any purchases with it, right? Because, I dunno, 6 or 7 deals per second is ridiculous. It's just an outdated blockchain compared to XRP and other alternatives. Does this mean Bitcoin will eventually be superseded? Oh, and slowed down there too. Sometime within the past year or 9 months, I really can't place an exact date on when I first began thinking along these lines. However, I've recently come to the realization that any crypto with sufficient value will have layer 2 technology developed to keep it more or less in place, keeping it more or less in place to the point where it won't plummet to zero and will still have some value. Even though you could use Lightning Network for some transactions, I'm argued today that it remains to be seen if it ever works adequately. There are a myriad of technical constraints associated with various payment channels, etc. However, with the help of XRP, Ledger, and XRP specifically spending the bits, the Bitcoin scaling problem has been resolved. That's great, by the way. Yes, please show me that. Given its potential for widespread use, Spin the Bits could end up protecting not only the XRP Ledger's future but Bitcoin's as well. And that, in turn, helps guarantee the long-term viability of XRP and the XRP Ledger, which could help keep Bitcoin in place. In a broader sense, what I mean to say is this: is there any coin that has value today despite the fact that it has various scaling problems? No sweat, I'm familiar with XRP. Layer 2 technology that patches and fixes the problem to the point that there will be such a focus on making that happen will, I believe, be possible and will be in the future for many of them. That will prevent the first layer from being destroyed. But, as it says here, this claim has only recently emerged in the wake of the recent market-wide upswing. In a tweet published on Friday, Dirk Schepens, also known as XBunkDS, founder of Expect, a community-driven NFT-based society on the XRP ledger, claimed that, quote, XRP is the only cryptocurrency apart from Bitcoin, which is actually moving the entire market into, quote. It's uncommon, after all. It is true that, over the years, XRP has begun to move, and I have noted this on the extremely rare occasions when this has occurred. When enough people in the Bitcoin ecosystem take notice and decide to advocate for the right kind of Bitcoin, the price of Bitcoin begins to rise. This is awesome in my book. There will not be one coin to rule them all, so stop acting like a naive maximalist and start diversifying your crypto holdings. I imagine that many large Win-Maxes will feel threatened once XRP really gets going, but this is a ridiculous position to take. The idea is just an idea. By jar, you don't know what I'm talking about. They will merely invert the concept. And then there's this piece from the Daily Huddle, Bitcoin turnaround, incoming ? The article's final line, crypto analytics firm sentiment says 5 indicators, flashing warning signs is what causes my voice to rise so dramatically. Now, this is from yesterday, but I'm going to pull up another article from a later year where they quote sentiment as recently as today. Anyway, have a look, just have a look. For the simple reason that I believe sentiment to be effective. And, in my humble opinion, if that's even the right way to put it, that's just that, my opinion. When compared to technical analysis, I find that on-chain analytics can be more engaging and illuminating. Just wanted to say thanks for the in-depth technical breakdown, guys, it's really helpful. I mean that with all my heart. That death bores me to tears, and I really don't want to watch it myself. Instead, I'd like to hear the thoughts of the TA guys. I'd rather not put myself through that. However, there are times when I feel this way, and it's always subjective. I can imagine that there are some of you who share my sentiments. You won't all agree. But the data I'm seeing on chain analytics just shows me how people act in the real world. In the context of technical analysis. Yes, it's about learning from the experiences of the past. There's a lot more uncertainty in that, though. This is just how I feel in a broad sense. Again, I find it interesting and valuable. However, when it comes to on-chain analytics, including XRP ledger metrics, I'm more genuinely interested. This is despite the fact that I haven't looked at the stuff in over half a decade. Recently, I've been curious about things like the rate at which new XRP ledger accounts are being created. It's fascinating to watch that shift in the same direction as the price rise. Just another piece of the puzzle, that's all. That is all I want to say. In any case, according to a new blog post by Sentiment, 5 indicators are flashing bearish for Bitcoin, suggesting that the cryptocurrency may be about to turn bearish after a prolonged rally. Bitcoin, the cryptocurrency king, is getting closer and closer to the $30,000 mark. Sentiment reports that trading volume is beginning to level off, citing the fact that pretty decent trading volume came in at the chart at the start of the recent rally, which is a positive indicator. However, as we progress upward, the pace of events begins to moderate. We're currently witnessing a price/volume disjuncture, which is quote-unquote not a good thing as it indicates exhaustion in the price action. Also, I felt it important to mention that this has more weight in part because I value technical analysis. I don't mean to sputter all over the place. For example, Credible Crypto popped into my head as an example of an analyst who has been sounding the alarm about a possible outcome that he thinks has a reasonable amount of probability of actually occurring, a dip in Bitcoin's price, possibly as low as $23,000. Even after that, he thinks you'll see a structural consolidation followed by a surge to the upside. For this reason, I'm just going to say that even if we get a scenario where Bitcoin goes down and say that drags XRP price down, too, because bring the price of pretty much everything down. That is not to say that the world will end because of that. It's just another opportunity to observe the real-life retail speculators struggling with their feelings. They wrote, Sentiment says that the social volume and social dominance indicator is at a high level, which historically indicates the top of a price rally has arrived to quote, Bitcoin, social dominance and social volume, which begs the reader to continue reading. I apologize, I took a wrong interpretation of that. Bitcoins. Both social volume and social dominance are at their highest levels in a year, suggesting a gradual increase in excitement among the crowd. This usually precedes a local topping quote, according to Sentiment. Thirdly, there has been renewed activity from Bitcoin's long-term holders in recent weeks, quote, since mid-March, we've seen 2 such spikes between 20 and 803,000 Bitcoin held for at least 5 years. The crypto crackdown or the CFTC versus Nance case might be to blame. Whatever the reason, it's safe to assume that at least one whale is anxious about the current situation. And then there was today's major news item discussed in the daily meeting. The largest Bitcoin transfer so far this year, worth about $564 million, occurred in March, according to data compiled by leading crypto analytics firm Sentiment, which has issued an alert to Bitcoin holders warning that recent large whale transactions may be cause for more concern for investors of the king crypto. Brian Quinn, the director of marketing, reportedly felt that a Ginlevan would not work in the space. New blog post says it exactly how it is. The size of Bitcoin transactions, along with the decline in the number of Bitcoins and the number of whales and sharks, may indicate that large entities are locking in gains right now. However, before we move on to discuss how XRP is currently leading markets, I should pause to note that if Bitcoins are currently cratering, even if only temporarily, then this may be a proper indication that we will be seeing that type of activity in the future. But if it really occurs, what might it do to stop the plummeting of Bitcoin if we get news of a positive conclusion and the SEC versus Ripple play is positive for XRP holders, at least? Would that be enough to induce the sort of elation that's strictly forbidden on the Moon Family Sedan channel? As I mentioned at the outset, this idea, and I have been talking about this on and off, for the last couple of days, really, and it would provide jubilant feelings that would push all crypto. It's worth considering the possibility of XRP ushering in an alternative season. And I have no interest in repeating everything I've said about it. In a nutshell, in case you missed it, I'll let you know that, from my perspective, this is possible, but that XRP is the large cap coin most likely to experience significant price change. The focus is there, on the one currency with unambiguous legal status. I'm aware that appeals could be lodged, but even if they were, you'd be seen as the one with the stronger legal footing. Perhaps everything else is fair game because, hey, even if our coin gets sued, we can still win. In theory, at least, I can see that occurring. It's our beloved XRP, not the protected coins, that will be safe. It will be fascinating to observe developments in the leading markets for XRP. On a global scale, this is extremely significant. If the timing for the crypto markets were to go south, I wouldn't be surprised if the market responded with a whiplash maneuver a la Jersey in the 1900 ADS, only in the opposite direction. However, here is the quote from Sentiment, which is based on the massive March transactions and the continuing decline in percentage and total Bitcoin address size from 10 to 10,000. The 5 largest Bitcoin transactions of 2023 up to this point have all occurred in March, so there may be legitimate warning signs to watch out for if you're hoping to see Bitcoin surge to $35,000 and beyond. This appears to be the result of investors cashing in their gains and selling Bitcoin due to concerns that the price has reached its peak. Okay, well, we'll see what happens, and of course there can be external factors that influence, positive or negative direction that haven't yet occurred, but again, just saying, even if we do see downward action, it's not like this is 2022, folks, the bottom was in November, unless there's a wildcard incident. I have no doubts about that. This is normal crypto volatility, so don't worry if you see it. That is exactly my point. That settles the matter. Worry has set in. I'm happy to finally be here,